remember the Bat-Pod from the Dark Knight trilogy? Well, I reckon when that's in the garage getting its MOT, this is how Bruce Wayne gets to Waitrose. This is the BMW CE04, and I reckon it is the finest mode of urban transportation ever made. No, I'm serious. If you lined up every vehicle ever made and drove each of them across London, one after the other, I'm not sure you would find anything that got you there faster and more enjoyably. It looks bonkers, it is ballistically quick and phenomenal to ride. It is just a sensational electric vehicle. And that's a good thing because it's also really expensive. Welcome to the Fully Charged Show.
Love the Fully Charged Show? Then join us live in Canada this September, the South in October, and Australia and London in 2025.
Well now, welcome to an electric motorcycle review here on the Fully Charged Show. We're going to start doing these periodically, and the reason it's taken us this long to start is because, frankly, while electric cars are everywhere now, the electric bike scene is still pretty small. Certainly as far as big bikes, you could pretty much count on one hand the different models currently on sale. And as far as the legacy bike brands, BMW are pretty much the only one with any electric offering whatsoever. But what we have seen in the last few years is a blossoming electric moped scene. And that makes sense because, of course, if your bike is your weekend toy, pure pleasure vehicle, you probably want the gears and the engine and the vibration and the noise and, you know, the whole shebang. But if your bike's just for getting around, certainly for getting around town, that's all a faff. What you want is silent, simple, and speedy. Now, it's worth noting we have reviewed another electric moped not too long ago on the Everything Electric show. It's called the Silence SO2, and I'd characterise it as the best of the rest as far as electric mopeds go. Lovely thing, equivalent to a 125cc petrol bike, speedy, nice to look at, removable battery tech, lovely, lovely bike. But this is a different stratosphere. This is a big wafty SUV compared to a little economy bike. It's the Rolls Royce of electric mopeds.
Out on the road then, on the CE04. First thing you notice, without wishing to state the painfully obvious, is the silence. Okay, I've got a little bit of motor whine, but I quite like that. A little bit of context for my throttle inputs. But what I don't have is the miserable droning of a piddly little moped engine. Last summer, on holiday, I rode a moped across Sri Lanka. It was good fun. But by God, did the droning of that engine and the relentless vibrations of it underneath me become tiresome. Now, admittedly, mopeds aren't designed for 200-mile road trips over mountains, but even just a full day riding around town, the sound of the motor, the vibration of the motor is just tiresome. I think this is a bike you could ride for longer and get less fatigued because it's so blissfully quiet. And good grief, it's fast. Oh, that's not surprising. What is surprising is the maneuverability, because again, big, heavy moped, long wheelbase, you expect it to just turn like a ship. But because of that really low centre of gravity, it's nimble, it's chuckable. I could squeeze this through little gaps in traffic effortlessly. In fact, I have been with great pleasure. And what makes it even easier in town is how narrow it is. The widest part of this scooter is the handlebars, whereas for a lot of petrol mopeds, they're actually chunkier at the back. With this, you know that if your handlebars fit, you fit.
Right, little walk around of the 04. First thing to acknowledge, it looks mad. It's pure Blade Runner in its design. BMW have really gone to town to make this something a little different from your run-of-the-mill moped. From the front, it looks like any other maxi scooter. It's got a fairly bulky frontal area, nice bit of wind protection, which is useful when you're at motorway speed, which this can do. But then you come along to the side of it and it's just space age, it's Star Wars, it's Blade Runner. It's really long. I think that's the first thing you notice. Look at the wheelbase on it. I've driven micro cars less lengthy. And that length is accentuated by this really low bodywork, really, really slim bench seat for two. Around this side, we've got belt drive, that's nice, low maintenance, single shock. We've got both kinds of stand, nice to have a center stand when you need it. And this is sort of split the crowd today. I quite like this exposed, steely. Louis and Andy think it's a bit naked and weird, and they could have done with being a bit more creative with that, but I like it. I like it. It just doesn't look like anything else on the road. I haven't had a vehicle on test in a very long time that has attracted more questions and stares, and I'll let you decide if that's a good thing. Certainly when you're living in London, the last thing you want your motorbike to be is eye-catching. Now, when I collected this bike the other day, my first impression, the first thing I thought upon seeing it with my own two eyeballs is that is going to handle like a bus, because it's as long as a bus and probably weighs about as much as a bus. And it is heavy, 321 kilos. That's significantly more than your equivalent petrol-powered maxi scooter. But here's the good news. The battery is really low down. Just like an electric car, it's right down here in the floor. If you see a cross-section of this bike, this is just empty space. In fact, I can show you. Storage space. I've got a cover and a charger in there. I think you could just about get a helmet in there if your head wasn't too massive. Mine is. We'll try that in a second. But the nice thing about the battery being really low down in the floor, as with an electric car, is it means that this scooter is actually a lot more maneuverable than you might think given that weight figure. The center of gravity is really, really low down, so it is actually quite agile despite its heavy weight. And the long wheelbase provides stability, but really doesn't inhibit the sort of nimbleness when you're squeezing through traffic too much. Let's just give this a quick go. Can you fit a helmet in if you have a massive head? Let's see. I have a rain cover in here currently, and I've got my AC charger, a domestic charger. I reckon, oh, it's the correct entry angle there. Maybe just maybe. Quick tour of the interior of the CE04, firing it up, very simple. We've got our big rubbery button in the middle there, screen comes alive, beautiful 10-inch TFT screen. What a game changer these have been since they came along. Even in the most glaring sunlight, that screen is absolutely crystal clear. Now, when I picked this bike up from BMW, I did embarrass myself because I pressed the big rubber button and then I sat there outside going like this and nothing was happening, and I had to go in and ask for help. And it does have an ignition as well. That's it, then you can go, you're away. I suppose I just didn't expect it to because it's electric and that, but it's probably a good thing actually. You want this just to fire up the screen, and then you put your gloves on and get your head on and then turn it on and away you go. But you do have to be a bit careful because there's no gears, of course. Once it's on, and any little touch of that throttle and you're away. Happily, when you deploy the stand, it does cancel out the ignition, so you can't accidentally lean on it and go flying. So nice, simple screen layout. We do have phone connectivity with navigation. That's been something of a godsend as well. Just really, really simple instructions. What else? Lots of creature comforts. We've got heated seat and grips, which are nuclear. Really, really hot. Too hot, actually. I've had them on 2 out of 3 and almost singed myself, but that's actually quite nice. In winter, you'd be grateful. Riding modes, we have 4 because this bike has the extra pack, which gives it dynamic mode and lean sensitive ABS and traction control. So we've got road, we've got dynamic, we've got eco, we've got rain. Basically, these only change 2 things: sharpness of throttle response and strength of regen braking. So in eco mode, it's like having really, really strong regen. You come off the throttle and the bike's gonna come to a complete stop. And actually, you could ride this around without ever touching the brakes if you had good anticipation. Over on this side, not too much to speak of, except for the fact that it's got a reverse gear. That's quite handy. I guess that's useful. It is a fairly hefty bike. Because it's got a really low seat height and the weight is so low down, I don't think anyone is going to have too much of an issue maneuvering this thing themselves, but nice to have, nice to have. And then final thing worth mentioning, a little bit more storage down here. Well, I say storage, that's actually the AC charge ports. And then on this side, nice little cubby for your phone. If you've got the big iPhone, like I do, you might need to take the case off to make it fit. But what's really nice is little cubby storage for it, USB port so you can charge it and then beam your directions onto the screen. Lovely. If I have a gripe about this cockpit area, it's this seat. It looks cool, but it's not especially comfortable, which is not surprising because it's really, really thin. I could do with a little bit more squish. I realise that might compromise the futuristic design, but my arse would enjoy it more.
But the biggest issue with this bike by far is of course the price. Because your run-of-the-mill 400cc maxi scooter, that's going to set you back £6,000–7,000 for a good one, a new one. The BMW CE04 starts at just under £13,000. And the cheeky thing is, there's optional extras. Heated grips, those are extra. Dynamic mode, which includes lean sensitive traction control and ABS, optional extras. Cheeky. And frankly, at that price point, I don't know how many of these BMW really expected to sell. I have never seen one out in the wild, which I think is quite telling. Truthfully, I think the best way to think about this scooter is as a halo model. It's ahead of its time. It's arrived too early. In some ways, it reminds me of the BMW i3, because when that showed up in 2013, it blew people's minds. It was absolutely groundbreaking in terms of its design. The styling was bonkers, and it was really expensive. This to me feels much the same. Crazy to look at, exceptional to ride, but it's just too much money. Only someone with cash to burn who specifically wanted this scooter would go out and buy it. Anyone else would just get a big petrol one or a smaller, cheaper electric model. But my goodness, what a thing. And what an insight into the future of electric two-wheeled transport.
So then, BMW CE04, game changer? Well, no, because it's too expensive to be a game changer. People have to be able to afford to buy the thing for it to be considered a game changer. But what a machine. It has massively exceeded my expectations in terms of its capabilities and agility in town. But where it's really blown my mind is just how much fun it is when you get out of town and the going gets a little bit twisty. I defy you to find any moped that can make you giggle as much as this one down a little B road. And again, what I'm really reminded of with the scooter is the BMW i3. Ahead of its time. Quirky design, fantastic engineering, just a little bit too expensive. But look at how the i3 aged like a fine wine. This will surely do the same and be very, very enticing once the prices start to come down a little bit. For the time being though, I think we should think of it as a halo model, a concept, a glimpse into the near future of electric mopeds and motorcycles. And the future, to me, looks very futuristic and really bloody cool. So there we go, the CE04, a fabulous contraption, maybe just here a little bit before its time. I'd love to know which electric motorcycles you'd like to see on the Fully Charged show next, but in the meantime, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have been, thanks for watching.